Hi, I'm Michaila Patterson, and this is why my story matters. So, I grew up in a Christian household. I was adopted at a very young age from China. My parents went over to China and they adopted me. I grew up in a white family, so for me, having the priorities that a lot of other kids didn't have was something that was a privilege and a blessing on my part. My dad is a pastor and also in the military, so I grew up as a PK and an MK. So life was kind of easy, kind of not. The pressure was always on me for, as a pastor's kid, as some of you might know, that everyone watches you when, like, you least expect it, or there's always eyes somewhere. We moved around a lot growing up, so, like, stability and consistency weren't always a part of my life. We were always in a place, not for very long. I've lived in Texas, and I've lived in Ohio, I've lived in Wyoming, and as of currently I live in Montana, where I'm from. Um, Growing up wasn't always easy since I was of a different race, and even though I had the privileges of, like, being in a white family, like, for me personally, like, in school and in church, like, I had a lot of, like, discrimination and a lot of, like, hate against me. I was told a lot to go back to my own country. I was told a lot of racist jokes and a lot of, like, unnecessary things that weren't supposed to be said. And as a kid, like, it hurt, and, no kid wants to hear that, but every time we moved, it was like a new, fresh start, so it was, like, kind of a reboost for me, as in, like, no one knows me, and I can start over, and I can have a clean slate. My life really started changing, I think, during high school when I lived in Montana. I got in a really bad group of people. I got in a relationship that was really toxic. I made some really poor decisions on my part. I started getting into alcohol and into drugs and into vaping and cigarettes. I meddled with drugs a little bit, but there wasn't really anything I wanted to do with it since I didn't really want to get caught by my parents. Alcohol, I drank every now and then, but it wasn't, like, something that I would go to. If anything, it was more the vaping that I would go straight for, since it was one of the closer things on hand at the time in high school. I got in a really bad crowd, and that they were all, like, the drug addicts and all the meth kids, and my mom knew. Like, she wasn't dumb, and she would tell me, like, you need to go find better people, you need to go hang out with different groups. And I would tell my mom, I was like, well, Mom, like, I'm a Christian, and I'm gonna go help these people, I'm gonna help them find Jesus. But honestly, for me, like, at that time, like, I was barely finding Jesus myself. I wasn't strong in my faith. I didn't really want anything to do with God, per se. I kind of ran away from my faith. But at the same time, though, like, I consistently can say that God chased after me. One moment for me, like, in high school that really, like, changed me, or, like, started the process for my change, was I was sleeping one night and I got really hot. And it wasn't, like, the normal, like, like, hot during sleep. It was, like an abnormal hot. And I took off my blankets and I took off my comforter because I was, like, sweating. And, like, in my head, though, like, I could see, like, flames, and then, like, this, like, dark thing began to appear, and it had, like, a tail, and it had horns, and it had, like, pointy teeth, and it had, like, that staff thing. Anyway, so in my head, I was like, and my fire got, like, really hot, and there was fire behind this object, and my whole body felt like it was on fire. And then the only thing in my mind at that moment was that I could hear my mom saying, like, when you don't know what else to do, like, say the name of Jesus. So I started saying Jesus, Jesus over again, and my body instantly started cooling down. The object, like, left me, and I got really cold, and I went back to sleep really fast. But I told my parents the next day, and they were like, like, you were under a spiritual attack. And I was like, cool. Like, I was like, I didn't know what to think about it, but I also did not take it the best way possible. Going forward, though, like, it didn't really change my perspective on Christ. It didn't really change the way I viewed my faith, sadly. I kept going down the road I was going. I tried cutting myself a lot. I got into a really depressive state in my high school year, and it was not okay. I tried cutting, but I really didn't do it, since, like, I can never bring myself to. I thought about killing myself, but never really went through with it. Being in a family of faith, though, like, it was very hard because I knew a lot of head knowledge, in the sense of, like, for instance, like, prayer is a really powerful thing, and I would pray every night that, like, I wouldn't wake up. I would pray, like, God, like, I don't want to be here anymore. I don't. My heart. Like, I just pray I don't wake up tomorrow, and I pray you take me. I don't care if I go to hell. I don't care if I go to heaven. Like, I don't care where I end up. Like, I don't want to be here. And for me, it was very hard because I didn't really feel like I fit in. I didn't really have a place in high school. I didn't have a place at home. Like, I acted very different in school than I did at home, and then I acted very different than I did at church than either of those places. And everything, like, every place that I went to, I acted very differently, and I was very, like, standoffish. Come February of my freshman year, my parents pulled me out of school for some of the things that I had done. I got suspended, so my parents decided to pull me out of school and try to homeschool me to help me grow and change, like, not just in my faith, but for myself, like, personally, like, to be a better person. Like, for me, it was hard because I was like, yes, they want me to change, but they didn't tell me how I should change. They just expected me to change, and there was a big pressure on me because, like, they were like, if you change and you've grown and we've seen that, you can go back for track and field, which was my sport at the time, and I love sports. I went to this conference, and this was, like, the time that I could show my parents, like, after a few months that I was ready to go back to high school, and I was, like, ready to go back, changed and grown. Well, some things happened in the retreat that I didn't expect and whatever, and it really hurt me because when I came back, it was like my whole family was against me and whatever, but they decided to send me to a boarding school, and they were like, we don't know what else to do with you. Your dad wants to send you to boot camp, and my mom wanted to send me somewhere else. So they decided on this one boarding school in Montana at the time, but as it came out, they shut it down because of, like, some of their personal issues. And so this other option for this boarding school came up, and it was this one in Idaho. And what was special about this boarding school was that it was a teen challenge. And if you don't know a lot about Teen Challenge is like a program for drug addicts and alcohol addicts as well. And it was an adolescence one. And so I didn't want to go, obviously. Like, I didn't want to be forced to go to something I didn't want to go to. I thought I was fine. I thought I was living my life. I was enjoying my life to the best that I could or thought I could. But on May 8th, 2017, my parents sent me to this boarding school in Idaho, and they dropped me off. And I just remember, like, just a bunch of hatred and a bunch of anger, like I didn't think it was my fault that I was put in this place. Like, I shouldn't be here. This isn't my fault. I didn't put myself here. I didn't even want to go here. My parents made me. They don't even understand. And I remember, like, standing in the room, like, when you come in, like, they greet you, and then they kind of leave you for your parents to, like, before they bring you in fully. And, like, my parents are like, let us pray for you. And I was just kind of stiff about it because I was like, are you serious? You want to pray for me while you're, like, dumping me in this, like, land of nowhere? And I don't know what I'm going to do. Well, they started praying, and I just, like, shook them off real fast. And I was like, no, I can't do this. Like, I don't want you to pray for me. Like, you don't obviously care for me since you're leaving me here. And I said a lot of things that I should not have said to my parents, and I regret. Through my life in the program, though, like, in the long run, I can see that God definitely put people in my life there and put things in my life during the process to really not just grow my faith, but grow me as an individual. One thing that I will always remember in the program is in September, we went to this retreat. It was called Spiritual Emphasis, and there God just got a hold of me. I really sat down with everything I went through, what I did, what I was involved in, some things I left, like, unsaid to my parents that I only knew, and obviously that God knew. And he got a hold of me and just really reshaped my heart. And that's when I committed my life to Christ again. And I got rebaptized in the lake in Washington, since the retreat was held in Washington. And for me, like, in my head, I knew that it wasn't going to get easier. It was going to get harder because, like, you know, being reconnected with Christ, like, Satan's going to come at you, and it's like he's going to attack you in ways that you can't imagine. But in my head at the time, it was like, oh, my life is going to be easy. It's going to be a breeze. It's going to be like everything's fine. And obviously that didn't happen. Things got worse in the program for me. I hit a rock bottom towards, like, the middle part of my program. It was really hard for me to be there because I wasn't new, but I wasn't graduating either. And it was really hard to see, like, these other girls, my friends, graduate, go home, and these girls coming in and, like, not really being the one to, like, show them around. I was just kind of there. And so I got in trouble a lot during those few months. I got all the consequences you could think of, except for one. I I really struggled with myself, and I really had to like put like dig my feet in and like really work on it. There was a lot of things I had to battle, like not just like personally but family wise. My relationship with my father wasn't the best. I had a really good relationship with my mom, but my dad was the kind of person that I really butted heads with. And so during the program I was able to work on the relationship with him and with my mom as well, and myself and with God. And come October, I finally graduated the program, and it was 2 years that I had been in there. And so it was a big accomplishment for me, and it was a great feeling knowing that like this was what I put the work in for, that I didn't come out the same person that I went in. And I came home and started working, started being living life back into the world, and it wasn't easy. I think that's one thing that the program didn't do for a lot of the girls and me, was they didn't prepare us what life would be like in the world again. Like it was sheltered a lot, so we didn't have news, we didn't have social media coming in, we didn't have like other people's opinions, we just had us and what we were focusing on. And so coming back into the world, having like what was on the news at the time, and like family issues that weren't really spoken about to me in the program were all coming at me at once. It was very overwhelming. But I knew for myself I didn't want to go back to like vaping and cigarettes. Like I was done with that. That wasn't the life I wanted to live, and I didn't want to choose again. And so it was really hard to see though that like for my family, like how broken they were when I came back. Being in the program, being sheltered like that, a lot of people can fake it, and fake it not just in front of you, but in front of other people. And so I know for myself, like, it was very hard and very, like, hurtful when I saw not just, like, my family, but especially my dad fake it. Like, my relationship with my dad is very important to me, and was really important to me at the time. And coming back, he was, like, a whole different person than he was at the program. He'd come to the program, he'd be smiling and happy and, like, really treat me well and treat my mom well, but when I came home, it was a whole different person. He was angry, and he was very, very hard, and he was very, like, straightforward, and you couldn't really get anywhere with him. And I struggled with this before the program, and so seeing that nothing had really happened for him was really disheartening. And, it kind of felt like everything I thought was getting better was kind of a lie. But, I didn't let that discourage me, and I didn't let that, like, change how I wanted to live my life. I kept pushing through. I finished high school early. Being in the program, it is an all-school boarding school, technically, so we did school all year round, so I got ahead of school. So I was able to go to college early, and there were some things that I missed out on high school, like prom and homecoming, but those are things, like, I don't wish I had, honestly. I mean, I do, but at the same time, like, for what God had in store for me for my life, it wasn't one of those. And my faith hasn't been more impacted now than ever before. Like, what I stand on and what I believe has never been stronger. I didn't even think I was going to go to college or a university, much less Vanguard. I didn't want to go to Vanguard because my dad went to Vanguard, and I didn't want to, like, follow in his steps, especially with the life he was living at the time. And I was like, no, I don't want to go to Vanguard. Maybe I'll just, like, go somewhere else, like Virginia or something like that. I don't know. But I didn't want to come here. But God opened doors so that I would come to Vanguard and, grow my faith even more here and grow personally for myself. As of recently, like, for my faith, like, it's been challenged and it's been stretched. But I can confidently say that I haven't changed, like, where my heart is and where I stand. My parents recently got a divorce, and so that was really hard, not just on me, but my siblings. And I had to really step up in my family where my faith didn't just define me anymore. It really showed where I stood in my family. And I had to lead not just me, but I had to lead my brother and my sister for where they were weak, I was stronger in. And as of recently, my dad had also disowned me as well, like couple months ago, and has now just reopened the whole talking stage. So it's a lot of like heartache and a lot of things coming at me. But one thing that I always tell my mom when I talk to her is that like God wouldn't have put me through these trials if He didn't know I could handle them. You know, I know there's that verse that says God never gives you more than you can handle, but honestly, like the things I'm dealing with right now and things I had dealt with, like I didn't think I could handle them, but God had given me the tools and the resources and the people that He put in my life so I could handle this. And not just for me, but He's also made me a leader for my family. I've had to step up in my family where not my parents haven't been able to. For my siblings, I've had to help my siblings in a way that I've become the parent. And it's weird because you don't want to be the parent of your parent, but there's come a time where you know you have to step up, and I had to step up that role for myself and for my family. And I honestly wouldn't have changed it for the world. There's things in my life that I wish I had done differently if I'd known the outcome, but I know God works everything for His own good, and and that He perfects everything through. And so everything I'd done from high school, from middle school, like, and throughout my life, I wouldn't have changed because I wouldn't be the person I am now. It's crazy to me because I never thought I would be in a place where I could confidently say that, not that I just believe in Christ, but God's leading me somewhere for something bigger, you know. Looking back on the girl that I used to be, the naive, like, stubborn one, it was only a dream that I would be where I'm at. And even then, it wasn't really much of a dream because I didn't think I'd be where I was at. But God put me through so much to not just grow me, but to shape and process me. And He's still shaping me, and I'm still growing in areas that I have to work on. Where He has me and where He's leading me has never been better. And I honestly couldn't be more thankful for it. There's things in your life that will come and go, and there will be hard times, and it may seem like the world is falling apart and that nothing is for you and everything seems against you, your family, your friends, just the life in general. But the one thing for me that's always been consistent is God. When my dad wasn't there, it was God that was there. When my family didn't show up, it was God. Even when friends didn't show up for me, even when I couldn't show up for myself, God showed up for me. He put me in a place where He was like, Michaela, like, I'm here, like, just see me, you know. Like, if I can look back at the life I have now, like, just the 18 years, almost 19 years that I've lived, like, I can say that an overall theme of my testimony is the chasing of the Lord. Like, I have never seen my life be more chased by God and be more loved by God than I can right now. And I'm still learning and I'm still growing as I go, but I know that God keeps chasing me and He's leading me to something bigger, and I can't wait to see what that is. So thank you for letting me share my testimony, and I hope you enjoyed it.